was the seaside town of Eastbourne, England, that played host to netball history. The first World Netball Championships in 1963. 11 teams competed in the round-robin format, Australia taking the inaugural honours ahead of New Zealand and England. It would mark the start of a fierce and long rivalry in the sport. The Silver Ferns, and most recently English Roses, becoming Australia's toughest competition. Every 4 years for the last 5 decades, the Championships has travelled the globe. Australia just one of 4 nations to have played at every World Cup since it began, and remarkably, of the 14 events to date, the Diamonds have been victorious 11 times. So let's take a look at some of the most memorable World Cup moments. In 1975, New Zealand played host for the first time, and as in the previous 3 World Cups, it came down to the Silver Ferns and Australia on the final day.
Australia, hard, fast, furious play.
A 34-all draw, enough for Australia to hold on to a 3rd title. In Singapore in 1983, Australia and their trans-Tasman rivals met again.
And a very nice pass, right under the post for Anne Sargent.
Julie Franco and Annie Sargent leading their inexperienced team to a 5-goal victory and World Cup title. 4 years later, Glasgow, Scotland would host the 7th Netball World Cup that saw Australia battle with injuries and settle equal second as New Zealand took top honours. By 1991, it was Sydney's turn to shine, with 20 teams fighting for a place in the coveted final. More than 10,000 netball fans, including Prime Minister Bob Hawke, would be at the Sydney Entertainment Centre for a defining moment in Australian sporting history. New Zealand led at every quarter break. A 1-goal victory, returning the cup back into Australian hands. That is where the silverware would stay after the '95 World Cup in Birmingham, England. The Aussies this time defeating South Africa.
And Australia wins the World Netball Championship for the 7th time.
It's hard to imagine a World Cup more dramatic, more iconic than Christchurch in '99. Dubbed the Geriatrics by New Zealand media, the Australians were out to prove a point against the unbackable host favourites. The Silver Ferns and Diamonds defeated Jamaica and England respectively to set up the final showdown.
New Zealand out to 32, they lead Australia 26.
Australia now in trouble.
It was young debutante Sherelle McMahon who would go down in the history books during the final moments of the game. New Zealand would seek revenge at the following World Cup, 2003 marking the last time the Silver Ferns have won the title. Every year since, the Diamonds have dominated. So just days out from the 2019 decider in Liverpool, who will succeed?
Announced me as a chair.
Well done, Julie.
A matter of time. Well, thank you. I mean, it wasn't me out there playing, but...
Well, I've heard of some of your form from Broken Hill, not too far away.
There's a reason I'm sitting at this desk too. And speaking of, we have some wonderful guests with us this morning in John Davidson, the founding director of C2C Sport. It is lovely to see you, John. We also have CEO of Netball New South Wales, Carolyn Campbell, and from the Commission we have Marina Go. Thank you everyone for being here this morning. We appreciate your time. First things first, Marina, the Diamonds.
Yes.
We are 1 win away. How do you think we will fare against South Africa tonight?
Oh, I'm confident. You know, I don't like to jinx anybody, but I'm confident. I think they looked really great. They've looked good in the games to date, and look, not taking anything away from South Africa, they're looking good too. But I'm confident that our girls will bring it home.
John, tell us your story, because it's a story that started in regional New South Wales, is it?
Originally from Dubbo.
Dubbo, yeah.
Dubbo boy.
Tell us the yarn, my friend.
Well, I've been involved in sport a long time.
Yep.
Always had an interest in fashion as well as sport, so we combined the both to get to where we are now.
And where is that?
Well, C2C Sport, luckily, well, I say luckily, hard work, and with a lot of support from different sports around and people, we're actually working at the Netball World Cup in Liverpool, doing all the merchandise there. So it's a big step for a small family company to get to this stage.
That's brilliant, isn't it?
So we've got some of the gear here. This is what the girls wear in the Suncorp Super Netball League. This is the Swifts, a bit bigger for the Swifts. And then we've also got some of the... This is what the girls are wearing over in London at the moment, isn't it?
Look, there's over 200 items that we've got in London at the Netball World Cup, including teamwear and supporter gear for everybody. So it's just part of it. As they say, it's better to show one small prop than too many.
100%. It's going to be a bit of a fight to see who flogs that. Now, Carolyn, to watch netball grow the way it has, and seeing the vision of Andy Sargent on a sort of, like just a local netball court, really, to what it's become.
Oh, it's been phenomenal. I call it the evolution. It's been going on now for well over 10 years in the sport, and for us to continue to grow year on year, and not only in the way that we actually present the sport, but the opportunities for our players. There is no doubt, and I say this quite proudly, that there's a lot of W codes that have come onto the market, but we've been doing netball for women for a very long time and being premier sport for them, and that continues to grow.
Well, speaking of that, Marina, I mean, you look at that, you look at the crowd, it does just look like a netball court that I played on when I was a teenager. How much have we seen the interest in the game grow and change since these days?
Oh, it's extraordinary. I was on the board of Netball Australia 6 years ago, actually predating my rugby league time.
With West Tigers, of course.
Yes, and I've come back to chair the commission, and the change has been phenomenal just in that period of time. So not only the intensity of the game, so it's much faster, but you know, we have it's the highest participation sport in the country, and still the fan base continues to grow and the support grows. But most importantly, people are watching it on television now. So in 2018, our free-to-air viewership surpassed the A-League, AFL Women's and the NBL, which is unbelievable. So I'm really excited about what we're achieving.
And with that, I know that not all the players can be complete professionals. There is an edge now that can absolutely concentrate on netball. They still need to bring a little bit of money in, but it's changing for your players.
Oh, it certainly is, but also it keeps the balance. So I think whether they're studying or have other little business interests, a lot of them have great small businesses running themselves. I think that's phenomenal for preparing them for life after netball as well. So yes, it's taken the edge off it. They're able to spend a lot of time preparing in a nice time of the day instead of trying to stretch their days and have a big workload. But at the same time, they're very grounded, and I think that's really important for our sport, and we reap the benefits of that as well.
John, in your time and your association with the game, what changes have you seen, whether it's in terms of small business or the like?
Well, I think small business, first of all, we employ probably half the population, and so it's important to recognise that part of it. But a lot of changes. I think the professionalism that netball have brought to the game, the changes in technology and in the style of uniform, so a little bit of fashion, a little bit of performance, all melded together to give us a nice product. It's a fierce landscape though, isn't it? And I'd like you both to give us your response here. Sport in Australia is fierce in the sense that there's so many people and so many sports competing for just that.
Yeah, absolutely. But, you know, we all watch different sports, don't we? And so it's not necessarily an either-or decision. You know, sponsors might make that decision, and we're really confident with, you know, how we're going. We've certainly increased sponsorship over the last couple of years. But when it comes to fans, you know, now you can see it all over social media. People are desperately engaged with the World Cup, which we're really excited about. But they're also watching women's cricket. They're also watching the tennis. They're watching the men's cricket. So I think that if you love sport, you love sport. I mean, we've got a particular die-hard group of women and men increasingly, and you know, young people who love netball, which we're happy about. But sport is just growing. I think the interest in sport, and women's sport in particular.
But you need those new sets of eyeballs, don't you? And you need to be creative about the way you do it.
It's all about what we've how we compete on the landscape and the offering that we actually have. And I think Marina's her point's really valid about we know that we get people to the game, they love it, they get engaged. It's how we continue to grow that, and it is a very, very competitive market, whether it's for corporate partnerships, whether it's for actual seats or people attending games, whether it's the eyeballs on the television or the streaming, all of those things. There's no one pillar. You have to have all pillars very, very strong and working. And I think you look at the number of professional teams of all codes in this country per capita, as opposed to a lot of other countries. It is a big struggle and a big challenge for us. But I think our innovation and our way that we continue to grow, there's lots of pluses about netball that actually forgo a lot of other areas, you know, in terms of having a great fan engagement. We'd like to think that we really value our product. When people come to the game, they have a fabulous time.
Yeah.
There's fantastic ambassadors as well. Timmy, that one's for you. Looks like a dream.
I'll have to wear this as a scarf.
John, we thank you
so much for coming in. May the diamonds sparkle in Liverpool.
They will sparkle indeed.